I want to get my time back. I'm tired of spending all my time on other people's project or working for other people. I want to basically be financially free so that I can I can spend more time investing my money. Because I felt that if I had done that, maybe I wouldn't have lost all that money in the stock market. I would have been able to diversify and all of that. And so I wanted to have then, in order to do that, to achieve financial freedom, you have to do passive income. So again, focus on rental properties. That was my focus already. So let's just continue on that track.
You're listening to the Rich State of Mind Show, the podcast made to make you the total package in the entrepreneurial world and give you what we call a rich state of mind. If you are here looking to learn about real estate investing, marketing, elevating your business, and developing your mindset to get to the next level, then you are at the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join our community on richstateofmind.com. Now here's your host, Anthony Ritchie.
Hey, Eric, thank you so much for taking the time for this afternoon for you in Los Angeles County, Hermosa Beach. Love that area, beautiful weather, pretty sure even in November. If you could please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
I'm a real estate investor and entrepreneur. That's what I've been doing for a while now, and I'm focused 100% on real estate right now. So I own a company called Martel Turnkey, where we sell single-family rentals to people who want to build a passive income portfolio. So that's what I do now.
Okay, and if you could tell us a little bit of your story as far as how you got to real estate investing.
Yeah, so my first apartment building, my first experience in real estate was when I was 18 years old. I was still at university, and I bought my first apartment building, an 8-unit apartment building, no money down because I had no money, and then but it was still cash flowing. And the reason why I did that is because I met this person, this investor, and he was just a regular investor. He was nothing special. He was a community college teacher. He was not smarter than anybody else. He didn't have any special skills. He didn't have money. He didn't inherit a bunch of money or anything like that. He had nothing special. I hope he's not listening right now, but he was he was not special in any way. And he managed to build a 36-unit apartment building. When I last saw him, he was building a shopping center, a nursing home, and all of that. And he's still working. So so after that experience, so he coached me and mentored me toward buying my first apartment building. And that was an experience on its own to be able to kind of know that, there are opportunities out there. And it was hard to find that apartment building where I didn't need money down, where I would be able to find a seller that was willing to put basically lend me some of the money. Some seller financing, either 100% or at least 20%, so that I can get a first mortgage, and then he could lend me the rest of the money. So that's so it took a while, and there was a lot of no's going through that particular path, including my realtor, who was supposed to help me sell this, buy this property, and he was just basically, that doesn't exist. Every time he kept bringing me deals, I said, well, that doesn't work. You need to have this. I said, well, they don't exist. The deals that I'm looking for, he said he kept telling me that doesn't exist. He got tired of me, and then he basically gave me a pile of MLS listing. In those days, there was no internet where you can go and look online for properties. So he gave me a pile of probably like 400 or 500 MLS listing. And I spent the weekend kind of like calculating, going through all of them. And I found like 3 that would work. And one of those sellers was willing to do a seller financing. So that's what we went for. And closed on the deal. and kept it for a few years, eventually sold it at a profit. And so that worked out great. And so that was kind of like the beginning of my journey. I graduated from university and worked as an actuary. And an actuary is basically someone that works in pension or insurance. And it's about really the calculation or the math of financial risk. So you can use that for everything. You can use that for real estate even. And but I was working a lot in pension and spending a lot of time basically converting these corporate pension plan, used to be called defined benefit pension plan, and converting them into basically 401k.
Okay.
And that's a major shift on the risk for retirement from the employer to the employees, because now the employees has to figure out how much money they need to save. They have to figure out where to invest it, and at the end they have to figure out how they're going to convert these savings in their 401k in a stream of income. So I was doing that every week. I was just kind of like winding down these defined benefit pension plan, and then really moving the risk to the employees. Then this is one of the major causes right now why we're having a massive retirement crisis, and the crisis is going to get even worse as we move forward.
It's interesting. You talked about your deal that when you're 18 years old, and you talked about seller financing. Now you talked about how the internet wasn't accessible as it is now. First, for those that don't know, seller financing, usually in cases where the home, or in this case, the 8 unit was owned outright by the owner. So that was probably hard within itself. Somebody that didn't have a mortgage, and then somebody to pretty much front load you the down payment. And I'm pretty sure you just roll that into the deal. How did you even know to look for something like that?
Well, so that's where the mentor came in, right? So that guy was basically giving me all kinds of different, showing me that it's not as rigid as you think it is, okay, right? So buying a property doesn't mean, oh, I have to come up with 20% down and I have to get the mortgage from a bank. Doesn't quite work like that. There's all kinds of different ways to make money in real estate. There's all kinds of different ways to own a real estate property. Right. So, I mean, you can do a joint venture if you want. You can get private money lending. You can get a hard money lender. You can get, do syndication. There's all kinds of different ways. And so what this guy basically, that mentor taught me, was that there are other opportunities, there are other ways to figure out the deal.
Yes. And
typically the problem is not, it's figuring out what the deal is, what is a deal, what the deal looks like. And then after that, structuring the deal in such a way that you make some money, and then maybe some other people make money as well. But there are other ways to structure the deal so that everybody wins.
Was he also a part of you in having a thought process to focus on cash flow vice accumulation?
So a lot of it was really kind of like the Burr strategy that a lot of them were doing, but I didn't have the money to do that. So for me, it was really a buy and hold. If I had, the hope was that if I had enough money at one point, I would be able to renovate the building and then kind of increase the sale and the rent and all of that, and then sell it at a gain. But so a lot of the people that I was introduced to through him were investors. They were doing value add. They were buying like single family rentals, and then getting them and renovating them, and then increasing the rent, and then reselling the property or refinancing the property. So a lot of them were doing that. And so it was kind of enlightening to see that. How do you add value to a project? How do you then refinance? How do you get your money out, etc.? So that was very interesting.
No, it is very interesting, and you're starting to see more and more people do that. And it kind of segues us into how you've syndicated this 100 multifamily units that you have. you've accumulated this amount to where you've bird or just added value to where you bought it for 40 grand, and you put 20 grand into it. Now it's worth 100 grand. And so you had the 8 unit. What happened with that? And then what got you transition into, the single family rentals?
Yeah. So after that, so after a while, so I started working as an actuary, as I mentioned, and then it was in a different city. So then it was kind of a pain to manage that from a distance. I didn't have a property management company, so that was one mistake that I made when I bought that my mentor never mentioned, because he was managing the properties himself, so he never thought about getting property management. But yeah, so then somebody gave me an offer, and I said, okay, well, let's do it. And I sold the property, and I was trying to find deals in other places, other cities that I lived in, and it was very hard. You're kind of like doing your full-time job, and then on top of that, during evenings and weekends, you're supposed to go and look for a deal, something that works, and all of that. And it's a lot of work to do that. Especially my job as an actuary, I have also to spend a lot of time studying for tests. So there was a lot of tests involved in that job. So it takes many years to complete all the tests. So it was not really conducive for me to find other real estate investments. So eventually I ended up like quitting that job, actuarial job, worked in high tech, made a lot of money in stock options, and then moved to California. And then there was a big stock market crash, the .com crash in 2001. And I basically lost millions of dollars at that during that crash. Pretty much wiped me out. But I was still kind of looking at that point to diversify. Before that crash happened, I had all that money that was sitting in the stock market, and I said, well, I have to diversify. I was in California at the time. I was looking for multifamily rentals. I knew what to look for. I knew what the numbers are supposed to look like. And I just couldn't find anything that really made sense. I was able to find cash flowing rental properties as long as I put 40% of the money down, and then my cash on cash return was, something like 2% or 3%.
Oh wow!
And I thought, well, I don't want 3%. It's not worth it. Might as well just keep it in the stock market, because the stock market was going like this, kind of like how it is today. And so I said, okay, well, let's do something else. Let's keep it in the stock market. Then we had the .com crash, and then that really kind of like not shook my foundation, but really had me think hard about what I was doing and what I should be doing. And this is when I thought, okay, well, I want to get my time back. I'm tired of spending all my time on other people's project or working for other people. I want to basically be financially free so that I can spend more time investing my money. Because I felt that if I had done that, maybe I wouldn't have lost all that money in the stock market. I would have been able to diversify and all of that. And so I wanted to have then, in order to do that, to achieve financial freedom, you have to do passive income. So again, focus on rental properties. That was my focus already. So let's just continue on that track. And then a couple of technologies really started appearing. I mean, one of them was technologies, electronic signature started appearing, like the DocuSign, etc.
Yeah.
And then we ended up with the phone, having cameras and videos on the phone that you're able to send very quickly to somebody else. And it really felt like my boundary where I was in the Bay Area was expanding. I didn't have to invest in my backyard. It was now very easy for me to find another market to invest in, right? And then being able to communicate with them. And this is kind of when I thought, well, yeah, it's okay for me to live in the Bay Area, but I want to invest like where it makes sense, right? So where the numbers make sense, where the properties are not so crazy, and I can find good returns. So that's kind of like where we ended up into that side of it. And and then my two sons were getting older at that time as well, and then they were pretty interested in starting this real estate business. So one of them especially one was working as a broker at the time, real estate agent, and then my other one was graduating from university. And so we kind of got together and then said, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go in and look outside,
Awesome.
outside California.
And so you say that it only took you 3 years to become financially free and retire. What are some lessons learned or skills do you think really attributed towards that? Because that's a short time frame in comparison. And some people, they dedicate 20, 30 years at a job to say, I'm finally retired.
Yeah. So I think the number one thing is to be focused. So this is very important. So many people are, they say they want to achieve financial freedom and they wanted to build a passive income portfolio, but when it comes down to it, they're easily distracted by other people's projects or other people's return, and then they see, oh, this guy is doing a flip over there, and he's doing great, and you look at all the money that he made and all of that, and this person made even more money, and it's very easy to get distracted. And this guy's doing a podcast and making money, and then this guy's a Lamborghini and all that. But it's not about all that stuff, right? It's really about being focused on your plan and trust that your plan is going to work. So the rental space, it doesn't matter what it is, but rental properties is great. So it could be commercial rental, could be storage, could be mobile home, single family rental. I happen to think it's an ideal one, but that's the main thing. And really be aligned with your goal. So that's the number one thing the number two thing is that to have these things aligned. So agree that this is financial freedom is your goal. You want to generate passive income portfolio. So focus only on strategies that relate to passive income that will generate passive income. And then you want to look at which one of those you want to do. And you want to look at your resource. How much time and how much money do you have to get this particular strategy off the ground? And this is where people kind of, they underestimate the amount of effort and amount of money that's needed to get some of these strategies off the ground, including BRRRR. BRRRR seems like very simple simple strategy. And the BRRRR stands for a buy. So you buy a distressed property, you renovate it, you rent it out, and then you refinance it, and then you get most of your money out at that point, and then you repeat. You do it for the next one. But there's a lot of work involved. You have to find the right market. You have to find the right contractor. You have to find the right property management company. You have to understand. You have to buy your single family. You have to find it. You have in the right neighborhood, and then buy it at the right price. Make sure you can renovate it. Make sure that the ARVs at the after repair values at a certain level. You have to rent it out. Make sure it's at the right market rent that you thought it was. You have to wait 6 months, and then for seasoning period, and then you have to refinance, right? Yeah. So, and that's the simple process. Yeah. Something's going to go wrong in the renovation. You're going to do blah, blah, blah. There's all these things that's going to happen. And by the way, you're going to have the cash to support all this for 6 months. You're going to be out that cash, the purchase price, the closing cost, the holding cost, all of that for that before you refinance. So it's a slow process to get that done. Can it be done? Absolutely. But my point is that, yeah, you need to make sure that you have the time and you have the money to get that done, and you have so otherwise you're gonna fail. You're not gonna be successful at that. And we started doing that. That's how we got started in the single family rental, the first single family rental that we bought in Memphis. And but we found a contractor, we found a realtor, the property management company. My son was calling all of them. He called probably like 100 people in Memphis and Cleveland, and only like 2 or 3 responded. And yeah, so there's a lot of effort. And then we found good people. That was very good, but it took a lot of effort. 100 calls. Well, how many people are going to spend time calling 100 people to find a property management company or a realtor to help them out?
They're not actually,
Not many people.
Yeah, there's a story of this. He's 21 years old. He's not 21 anymore. So this was like several years ago. But he got really good at real estate investing, and within from 18 to 21, he basically I think became a millionaire. And so a lot of other young guys, 17, 18 years old, were asking him, "Hey, how did you get to this point?" He says, "I won't even waste my time talking to you unless you're willing to make 100 knock on 100 doors." He wanted them to knock on 100 doors, and he was like, "Guess how many of them did that?"
Yeah,
And it was just like one guy ended up actually doing it, taking all that rejection. Another thing is too is that I don't feel like is really talked about much. We talk about the deal a lot, but I like the fact that you mentioned capital. Do you have the money? What job do you have that is, sustaining your lifestyle? And then also you were able to put money aside to invest in a BRRRR or in anything. You got really blessed, and it was really a lot of hard work to find somebody, a seller financer, right? But that doesn't happen, I would say, like 90%+ of the time. There is some money, and I don't believe in, there's no such thing as no money down. You're coming out of pocket some way for something down the road. I don't know where even somebody got finance for their earnest money deposit. They got finance for the inspection, their survey, or like everything. And so with that, you have to take that consideration. And we're talking 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 grand, depending on whatever the area. You live in Los Angeles. So if you definitely want to invest in there, then, I don't know what 30 grand is going to really do for you out there. Not even as a BRRRR. But you could look in other places, maybe not Memphis, but you could look in Chattanooga. Maybe you can Chattanooga, Tennessee, or maybe Jacksonville, Florida, places like that, where you can still use that money in other places. And thanks to the internet, right, we have access to see where we can make our money stretch. There's tons of people I know that either live in California or Hawaii that invest in other parts of the country.
Yeah, I think this is what's great about the technologies that we have right now, and the different other investors that are there, is that you can invest in other states, live where you want to live. If you want to live on the beach in Hawaii, yeah, go ahead, do that. But that doesn't mean this is where it makes sense to invest, right? So find a place where the state, the city, the metropolitan area, that it makes sense to invest. And this is why we're investing in Memphis, Cleveland, St. Louis, and Detroit, is because this is where the numbers are.
Yes.
And we went very strategically as well. I mean, I when I was looking at that, I said, well, okay, we can go anywhere in the US now. And then, so which state, what are the criteria for us to invest? Well, I want to have something that's a state that's landlord friendly, because part of our strategy is that we want to kind of like turn the tenant around so that we can do the renovation and maximize the rent before we resell. And, so we want to have something that's, if we want to find a good price, that means we can look at the median house value, but we should also look at the growth. How quickly is the population growing? How quickly is the economy growing? If you have something that's growing very rapidly, then chances are it's also the prices are going to go up very rapidly. If you have like 3 or 4% population growth every year, that means that these people are going to have to live somewhere. That means that the housing prices is going to be super high. And it could also mean that the rent is also pretty high. But so you have to kind of look at these things and to figure out what is the best market. And so that's one of the reasons why we came up with Memphis and Cleveland, is that it was like literally like close to just below 1%, I think, for Cleveland in terms of growth, the population growth. It was a little bit higher for the economic growth. We also look at business diversification. We don't want to have a city that's just entirely focused in one industry. So we really like the healthcare industry. Memphis with St. Jude's Hospital, and Cleveland with Cleveland Clinics. I should say. So, all these things. So these are good things. Also with FedEx in Memphis, a good employer that's growing and, attracting other other businesses there.
Love
So
that.
yeah, so I mean, you kind of come up with these criteria that says, okay, well, this is the right criteria, investment criteria for my strategy.
And so with that, because I'm pretty sure that you use these strategies for your Martel Turnkey company, tell us a little bit about what that company does.
Mm-hmm. So initially we were just building a portfolio for myself, for my family, and so we did in one house, and then saw that worked pretty good. The first house in Memphis, right? Bought $40,000, put $10,000 down, and then the ARV was like 75 or something like that. I forget the numbers, but then we refinanced it, and we said, okay, let's do 2 more houses and 2 more. And we had done other businesses in the past. We had done like a gourmet sauce company. We'd done like a low carb grocery store. We did, I was doing it, had a management consulting business and all of that. So people knew that we were kind of like doing things a little bit differently. And they became very curious and started asking us like, what are you guys doing now? I heard you're investing in Memphis, and why Memphis and all that. So we started sharing more with our friends and extended family, and said, "Oh, this is what we're doing." And they wanted to invest with us. They wanted to be basically private money lender or do a joint venture,
nice.
etc. And then I said, "All right, let's do this." And then eventually that kind of grew into a situation where people were willing to buy the single family rentals from us. And we had looked at other turnkey providers before, and then, there was a little bit of, they didn't meet all our goals. There was a couple of things that we didn't like about the existing turnkey providers. So we said, okay, well, I think we should do this. I think there's an opportunity for us to be a turnkey providers. And this is when Martel Turnkey was founded. And a turnkey provider is basically someone that they basically do the BRRRR, but instead of the refinance, they sell to an investor. So Martel Turnkey buys distressed properties, we renovate them, we rent them out, and then we resell them to investors who want to build a passive income portfolio. We connect our investors with the property management company, with the lender, with the insurance company, everything. So literally, when they close on the deal, they have this cash flowing from day one. So that's the idea. Again, when we go back to your typical investors, when they have to look at how much time and how much money they have. So if you're working full time, this is ideal because you don't have to spend much time. We really take care of everything. You sign here, sign there, you put the down payment, and then $30,000, and then you have a rental property that is cash flowing, probably around $250 to $300 a month. So it's giving you about like a 10 to 12% cash on cash return. Yes.
And so I love this in a few ways. You are finding distressed properties, you're burning them without the refinance portion, but you're getting rental income until you sell the property. So you're not doing a distressed sale. You have income coming in. Mm-hmm. And so it allows you to kind of take your time, find obviously a viable candidate, somebody that obviously qualifies. You're not rushing on that. And then you are allowing maybe a newbie landlord or somebody that just doesn't want to deal with it, buy as is and have to deal with repairs, being able to just experience being a real estate investor with that cash flows and don't have to worry about repairs for a while.
Exactly.
Because the biggest thing, and this is something I've had to pretty much gotten accustomed, because this has been everything I've ever bought is buy as is. I've always had to have $100 set aside for vacancies, 100 for repairs, and 100 for CapEx, because I'm always buying as is and then renovating as I go along. So I'm usually I'm actually doing my first BRRRR right now, but usually what I do is I buy and then renovate as I go. Rehab as I go. So this is good for turnkey. I think is good. Sometimes you hear some bad things about turnkey, but for the most part, especially people I've interviewed, I think the fact that you set it up for the future investor to when they purchase this property, it can still cash flow. That's the win there. And I think that's what encourages transactions, because I get it, right? You do want to, sell the house for as high as you can. But if the margins don't make sense, then it's really hard for an investor to even bother want to buy it from you. They're trying to, squeeze in things and not be conservative with their numbers on in reality what they're going to get in their return. So you said 9 to 12% cash on cash return is awesome. You get that, you're hitting a home, not a home run, you're hitting at least a base hit each time, which a lot of base hits are better than a home run every now and again.
Yeah, so exactly. And this is what other turnkey providers, what we have found when we were looking at turnkey providers. And we didn't really like that, because first of all, they're selling you a house at a certain price, but then you don't know, you don't know what it's going to rent for example, right? So there's a lot of things that you don't know. You don't know when you're going to get the lender, if the house is going to appraise at that same value. And all that risk is put on the shoulders of the investor, the buyer, which is kind of unusual, because the person that is the specialist in that area is the seller, right? So is the turnkey provider. They know the market, they know the value of the house, they know how much it could rent for. And what happens normally in these transactions with other turnkey providers is that you go through and then, they sell the house without a tenant in place. And then after you close on the deal, then you have to find a tenant, and then you don't know what you're going to rent for. It could be less than what you rent for. It could be a little bit higher, it could be less as well, but it could take you a month, 2 months, 3 months to find a tenant. So this is money that's lost. We didn't like that model. We wanted to make sure that we're going to find you a tenant before we close. So this thing is going to cash flow from day one. There's not going to be, and you're going to know what rent you're going to get. The other big problem was, when we talked to, we almost bought a property from a turnkey provider, and then you just like, when we are about to close, the lender did an appraisal and all that, and the house didn't appraise. Like it was like $10,000 less than what we had bought it for, and was, well, what's gonna happen? Like, well, so you have to come up with more cash. But if I come up with another extra $10,000, then my cash, the cash that I invested is much higher.
Yeah.
So now my cash on cash return is going down. So it's going to 7%. That's not what I bought. Like I bought a 10%, cash on cash return property. Now it's going to be a 6 or 7%. So it doesn't make sense. So that's why we do kind of appraisal guarantee that we call it. So basically, if the house doesn't appraise at the value we sold it at, we're going to reduce the price of the property. So just to make sure that, we're supposed to be the expert in the area. Every once in a while, we have surprises from appraisers, but yeah, we're going to reduce the price of the house to meet the appraisal.
And you know what? I think this encourages continuous business, because I'll come back to you, because I know that it's obviously you set it up to where you'll make a profit. Like you did your due diligence when it came to your BRRRR, or at least the rehab portion of it. And you have I'm pretty sure you have like a range of, okay, if we sell between this amount and this amount, this is how much we'll make. So lowering that price doesn't make you break even. But I love the fact that y'all are not greedy in that aspect. Like you're trying to make sure that the landlord, the investor, also wins in this deal as well. And I think that pays out tenfold, because not only will they probably come back, but they will probably tell other people about you, that you made that sacrifice, and we're willing to make it a win-win situation. And then obviously, like I said, that's word of mouth. People keep coming back to you. So I love the fact that you're kind of thinking a long ball game in that. And it's humane, it's, I feel like it's being a good Samaritan in the real estate investing world. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, we're not selling one house, right? So we're building a relationship with our investors, and we want them to build a passive income portfolio with us. And then when we do, and we've done that in the past as well, we also invested in apartment buildings, and then we offered it to some of our investors to invest in these apartment buildings. So we had a couple of them that we kind of did as joint ventures, where they're members of the LLC and all of that. And that's good. Like we want to build that relationship with them. It's not the one-off thing. Hey, you just buy this property and then we don't care what happens after that.
Yeah,
I mean, we stick around and we want to build that relationship.
And so what I like to ask, all my guests before they cut out is, what is your rich state of mind? What's your big why as to why you do this? Because you just told me a piece of your business strategy / philosophy that I find to be very noble. And at the same time, I always appreciate the profit in any deal. So if you could please just tell us about your big why.
Well, for me, and I think for everybody, I think it should be about the legacy. So we want to leave a legacy for our children and grandchildren. I think this is critical. We can't, I mean, my parents, they're good people, but they worked, their position or their mentality was, hey, I worked hard for my money, so I'm gonna spend it all before I die or something like that. So don't expect any inheritance. And I mean, that's fine when you, like my parents, you're living paycheck to paycheck. So we'd never expected much anyway. But I think we need to do more than that. You need to, you can't expect your children, the next generation after generation, starting from ground zero. If you want your family to grow and to get better and bigger and wealthier, you need to help them. You need to kind of like bring them up and have a legacy for them to stand on so that they can step a little bit higher.
I love that answer. And earlier, like I said offline, I appreciate the fact that you have a family business, something I aspire to continue to do when my kids get older as well. So Eric, I really appreciate your time. How can people find you and your business?
Well, so on Instagram at E_Martel, on Facebook, eric.martel.ca, and now on TikTok. Apparently TikTok is a thing now, E_Martel as well. I was just like, it's unbelievable the engagement I get there. So, and it's just starting to build up. So E_Martel, and there's also my website. So if you want to look at my book and all of that, marteleric.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric, for your time. This has been awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for sticking with us from the start of the episode. Please share our show with friends and family, visit our YouTube channel, and view more of our content on richstateofmind.com. See you next week on the Rich State of Mind Show.